It was a software glitch. ahead and call to order the meeting of the Harbor Commission. Could I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Abelman.
Here.
Commissioner Light.
Present.
Commissioner Callahan.
Present.
Commissioner Carlson.
Here.
And Chair Krazan.
Here.
For the record, Commissioner Bauer and Commissioner Kilroy are not here. They're absent. But we do have a quorum and we can conduct business.
Okay, I was looking for a light there. We're going to salute the flag. If I could ask Vicki to lead us, please.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated.
Before we move on to our next item, which is D, order of the agenda, I want to highlight the last item on our agenda, which is the adjournment. I don't want to wait that long until we address this, but I want to, with your support, I want to dedicate this meeting and adjournment in memory of our late mayor, Bill Brand, who unfortunately passed away on Friday night after suffering from lung cancer. It's the first public meeting since it's occurred. At that time, if anybody has any remarks or comments that they would want to make, I certainly would encourage you to do so. And with that slight change and announcement for what we're doing at the adjournment, I'll kick it over to Leslie to do the order of the agenda.
Thank you, guys. That sounds very good. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the order of agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Do we have any blue folder items?
We do not tonight.
Okay. Item F, consent calendar. We have the approval of affidavit of posting for the Harbor Commission meeting of February 12th, and the approval of the meeting minutes from December 11th. Do I have a motion to accept the consent calendar?
I move so.
Second.
All approved?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. There are no excluded consent calendar items.
Nope.
And we move to item H, public participation on non-agenda items. Do we have any e-comments or anyone on Zoom?
We do not have any comments on Zoom or online.
Okay, hearing none from the room, we will move on to item I, ex parte communications. We do have a public hearing today. Are there any ex parte communications to report?
No.
I talked to some members of the public on this, but that's about it.
Okay. I'd like to open the public hearing. The public hearing is to consider an exemption declaration and coastal development permit to allow the construction of a public art installation called Gate Wave on the property located within a coastal commercial CC4 zone in the coastal zone. And procedures: A, to open the public hearing and take testimony, and B, continue the public hearing until May 13th, 2024 at that Harbor Commission meeting.
So I moved to open the public hearing.
Second.
All approve?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Motion carries.
I'll chime in here. So this is a very exciting project. If you tuned into the city council meeting last month, they were considering the funding and appropriating some money for this project. And at that meeting, they had some concept art on there. This would be a sizable art installation over at the parklet where Redondo and Harbor meet, just over by the Hermosa Beach city limits. It potentially be a great opportunity for people when they're leaving Hermosa and coming in. It's like that gateway marquee. You're coming into Redondo Beach art figure. So unfortunately, we're not ready to talk about this topic tonight, but it was advertised. In the excitement of the funding being approved, our community development department wanted to get this thing going as fast as possible, seek that coastal development permit entitlement from you guys. But the artist hasn't quite been under contract yet. So in order to apply for the application, that artist needs to be under contract. There's some other site plans that the planning department needs from the artist that he obviously wouldn't do until he was under contract and being paid for his work. But because we advertise it, we've got to give it an opportunity to the public online or in person if they have any comments on it. But staff's recommendation is to essentially push this to our May hearing. I do know that the contract is being considered by the city attorney right now. I think it was completed and submitted today. That is usually a 30-day turnaround. So we're looking at potentially the last meeting in March for city council to approve that contract, but potentially the first meeting in April, depending on timing. And we figured about a month of April to kind of get this, the coastal development permit application and site plan underway would be appropriate before we brought it to you. So that's the timing. That's why we chose May. We think that's pretty logical. But yeah, that's our recommendation tonight.
Can we discuss it at all?
You can. We just don't have the site plan or some of the concepts. But yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so,
What are we discussing? There's nothing to see.
no, I know, but I do have some questions before we,
ahead.
and some comments.
Sure, go ahead.
So first, there's already art down there. Would that art come out? There's a bicycle.
That bicycle?
I don't remember hearing anything would come out when I was at the city council meeting. It was just, this would be in addition to.
Okay. And, one of my comments is going to be that the landscaping, when they put this in, the landscaping should be native plants and should include Eriogonum parvifolium for the El Segundo blue, or Seacliff buckwheat for the El Segundo blue butterfly. I think it would, first off, it gets rid of turf, which we should be getting rid of.
Right.
Anyway, and second, it discourages people from, trampling up and doing stuff to the art.
Sure.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure they've had consideration for the turf. I know a lot of people do use that turf for like stretching and stuff before a run. It's
There's
kind
still
of
some dirt areas and there's
starting
another
point.
turf area right next to it.
Yeah. I think all the gateways into the city, which we have numerous, are iconic. So I think it's cool to have
Yeah.
art
It's really
at that
exciting.
location. One question I have is if they are ready in April, but we're voting, or the mention of May 13th here, does that mess it up if they want to bring it in April?
I don't think that would be possible.
Oh, okay.
I think it will be looking at best like a March 15th, 16th execution of a contract to where the artist is under contract, but worst case scenario,
Okay.
the first meeting in April. And that would give the artist about a month to
Gotcha.
get ready for our meeting.
Gotcha. Okay.
I have no comment.
My only comment is I misread this at first, and I thought that the Gateway Park we were talking about was the one at Redondo, Catalina, and PCH.
The water fountain?
And that's exactly what I was thinking of. I was thinking, wow, could we turn that water fountain back on now at the AES? But that's for another day.
Yeah.
So,
Another day.
yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, we can take public comment on this agenda item.
There are no public comments.
So I
Okay.
move we close the public hearing for today and continue this to the May meeting.
Great.
Second.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. The public hearing is closed. Moving to, we have no items continued from previous agendas, item K. So moving on to L1, discussion and possible action on the proposed expansion of the Harbor Commission purview of the newly vacant AES power plant site and surrounding properties.
Thank you. I'll do a quick introduction. So this is actually a strategic plan item that City Council wants us to follow up on. This is our first stop in that endeavor. Ultimately, the strategic plan was to come to City Council with, the discussion item to talk about expanding your purview beyond just the harbor area in terms of where your purview area is. And essentially take that AES site all the way down to Pacific. We're starting with you guys. Mio's going to go through a presentation on why we think it's a good idea. But the next stop is we're working with the planning division, and they're getting us on the planning commission agenda, likely for March. So we'll be going in front of them, and then we'll go to city council hopefully in April with both recommendations from Harbor Commission and Planning Commission on this topic. And at that point, they'll guide us whether or not to pursue the required text amendment that would be needed to kind of shift the properties that we're proposing here from the Planning Commission to the Harbor Commission. So we'll see how this kind of pans out.
Do you know what the temperature is at Planning Commission?
I do a little bit, and I think, for the most part, the individuals that I've been told about are supportive.
Okay.
But that's off, it's, who knows what's really, there's 7 of them, right? So we need them as a body. So,
And we have to remember, the scope of this is smaller than the planning commission, because they'd still do zoning.
Of course.
It's CUPs and
Of
stuff like
course,
that.
of course.
so I'll turn it over to Mio because we're getting into some of her presentation.
Sorry, Neil.
Okay, thank you, Greg, for the introduction. So as mentioned, to grant the purview of the proposed area to the Harbor Commission, we would need to update 2 maps in the municipal code. And these maps would outline the areas of purview between the Harbor Commission and the Planning Commission. So this map here on the screen, currently the jurisdiction of the Harbor Commission is limited to the harbor area outlined by the yellow boundaries on the map. It's important to note that the Harbor Commission reviews all development entitlement applications with the exception of proposed zone changes and general plan amendments, which would remain under the purview of the Planning Commission. So our proposed expansion can be seen by the red boundaries on the map. This would include all properties west of North Catalina Avenue and North Pacific Avenue. This list it's updated a little bit, so it's going to include the AES power plant site, the Sonesta Hotel, the vacant Gold's Gym site, the mini storage facility, SoCal Edison right-of-way on Redondo and west of PCH, the U.S. Postal Service property, the Salvation Army property, and in addition, this would include the Dirt Farm property and the closed U.S. Bank property. The Redondo Beach Hotel, which is the second item on the list that you see, it is actually already included in the Harbor Commission purview currently, so that wouldn't be included in the proposed expansion.
And this also includes the offices on Catalina adjacent to the storage facility?
So Green Street Shopping Center, the old cannery building, the tech center on Catalina.
Yeah, everything's circled in
Kind
that
of curiously
red area.
missing from those bullets.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if those were included in one of the properties listed, like it's sort of part of the storage facility.
I mean, the answer is yes, it is a part of it. I just think the bullets may have missed it. But the map shows.
Yeah, the map shows it,
Yeah.
yep, just calling it out. Thank you.
Thank you. No, that's helpful.
So we have several key rationales behind this proposed expansion. First are the capacity and development considerations. So the execution of the amenities plan and future economic development in the harbor could trigger the need to utilize properties adjacent to the harbor. So currently we have over 40 projects in the harbor area, all with the intent to upgrade and enhance amenities, which would mean we'd be attracting more and more visitors to our waterfront. The amenities plan also directs the city staff to explore potential locations for dry boat storage and a food hall as well. So the increased square footage from a new food hall structure would trigger additional parking requirements. And so that would also enhance the need for utilizing the properties in the expansion area to accommodate for the overflow of parking. So this expansion would allow the Harbor Commission to better integrate these additional needs and manage increasing demand in our waterfront area. And second are the interconnected impacts on the harbor and the surrounding areas. So the Harbor Commission would be able to holistically assess and adjudicate the uses and impacts of potential new projects. And future projects will most likely impact traffic circulation, parking, revenue generation, as well as public access to the harbor. So expanding the purview of this commission would allow for a more cohesive approach to the development of projects in this area. And third, the properties in the proposed jurisdiction would present opportunities for new projects and uses. So again, that would emphasize the need for an integrated decision-making body that is well-versed in the dynamics of the harbor area specifically. And lastly, these are the maps that would need to be updated. So if the City Council supports the proposed expansion, staff would prepare the amendments to update these two maps seen in Municipal Code Sections 2-9.714 and 10-2.2512.
Thanks, Mio. So
What was the map that had the yellow? These are the official maps?
those
two?
are the two official maps.
Okay.
The
The other
one
one
in
was kind
yellow.
of hand-drawn?
Yeah, that was just something that we created so that you guys can get the gist of what we're doing.
Better image.
Yeah. So really tonight, we're asking that you guys deliberate, ask us any questions that you have, follow-up questions, of course, and ultimately land on a recommendation on whether or not you think we should pursue this text amendment.
Thank you so much. I had some thoughts, and I guess a quick question. Nothing that moving it into our purview wouldn't do anything, it doesn't bring anything coastal specific regulatory wise, does it, to those like existing buildings?
No, nothing changes.
That's based on a distance from the ocean.
Exactly.
Anyhow, right? Okay.
Like no matter whatever uses or whatever development occurs on those adjacent properties has to go through the process that they have to go through, the entitlements, the building permits, everything is going to be the same.
Yeah.
It's just who reviews it. Is it
Right.
the planning commission or is it the harbor commission?
Okay, great. That's what I thought. Yeah, I'm in support. We're a coastal city. Greg's waterfront development, organization has a lot of importance for our citizens in the greater LA region. And Bill Brand knew this and fought for years to preserve and enhance our community, in particular the waterfront and coastal concerns. And the work of our commission is very important in the same way that we're advising on coastal priorities and amenities in the harbor. And so our discussion of placing these adjacent areas makes a lot of sense, as you pointed out, Mio, with the amenities plan. It's a much more holistic approach, given the use cases of the waterfront and just geography. I do think that going forward, kind of growing awareness and communication between this commission and the Recreation and Parks and Planning Commission would be, while serving this motivation so that we can really, it would serve to enhance the implementation of the amenities plan and the end results, to include, these additional properties as appropriate. And also, just as a GPAC had a focus on 2030 or 2040, we have to do the same thing with sea level rise and implementation of the amenities plan, which is going to take many years. So this is a really we can do that in a much smarter way of not trying to pigeonhole things in, well, this is the only spot we have, by opening it up and looking at things more holistically. So I'm definitely in favor of that. And I think it's critical, like, as you said, for the strategic plan, so.
And just to add something, we've got the boat launch RFP going out right now. We do expect that to bring more visitors. But with that process, we're going to be doing traffic and parking studies for the entire waterfront. And we're going to learn a lot about what our parking supply can really handle and accommodate. while it's important that we've got all these projects with the amenities plan, and we could use maybe some of the AES site to help with providing some of those amenities, it's even more important, I think, to consider, what gets redeveloped on these adjacent lands and how did that affect the traffic and circulation of the harbor. I think for the most part,
Yeah, it goes both ways.
yeah, I think for the most part, having a commission that understands the traffic and the parking needs of the harbor would behoove them to review those applications when they do come in for redevelopment, right? Whether it be housing or commercial alike. You're right, it goes both ways.
All right, I open up comments to others. Vicki?
First of all, for years, we've said that we should incorporate, when the AES plant was gone, we should incorporate it as part of a master project rather than piecemeal here and this little parcel there and develop over here. And this is what I see as the first step to encompassing the entire harbor area. I think it's a great idea. The next one is a question. Will there be any income transfer from the uplands to the tidelands for this?
I don't think so. It's just process and who reviews.
Okay. All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Jim?
Sure. First off, we asked for this. This is a result of us putting it forward to the city council, who then, heeded or honored our request and put it on the strategic plan. Now it's coming back to us. So just applause that some of what we do comes back and looks like it's moving forward. Second, Bill Brand was probably the first one to go out there and say he wanted an integrated plan for the harbor, the AES site, the Redondo site, and all of this. So I think that honors his wishes, and something we all took to heart early on and would certainly like to follow through. As you said, the implementation of, as multiple folks have said here, implementation of the amenities plan is likely to drive the need to expand some of the uses such as parking, maybe some boat storage and things like that east. And this gives us the freedom to do that without going between two commissions and trying to, negotiate the bureaucracy of going between two commissions and having to hear the same things twice for the public and potentially having to go back and forth multiple times. So this obviates that. And then as Mia put in there, there are projects coming up already. The Planning Commission is going to hear on the US Bank site at their next meeting. So we won't get that one coming to us. But there's likely to be movement at the Gold's Gym site. We know at some point AES is going to break loose, and I think the city has to be prepared to act quickly when that does break loose. So I think doing this sooner than later, is in the best interest of the amenities plan, the harbor, the city, and the people. So I fully support this.
Roger?
Yeah, I support this as well. I used to jokingly say, let's take everything up to PCH. But then you actually draw this line and I'm like, wow, huh? And I as I was looking at this line over the last couple of days, I was thinking, well, this doesn't include residential, so that's okay. So everything is kind of the same flavor for us, but it does include residential. It does include the Salvation Army site. So one of my thoughts is to, I don't want this to somehow be interpreted as a signal that we want to turn, the Salvation Army into boat storage or some other, shiny new harbor amenity, a swimming pool or something. Mm-hmm. So one of my thoughts is if this happens, or even if it doesn't happen, even if as we discuss it, we send a reassuring letter to property owners in the area saying, look, you're not getting rezoned. You're not going to get turned into boat slips. Would it be good to reassure people and tell them our intentions? I mean, the intentions that Mia wrote in here saying we want a unified plan, a unified look and feel, that makes a lot of sense. But I don't want to send the signal that we're trying to turn this into,
Yeah, no, we can certainly get out in front of this a little bit and warn the property owners that nothing's changing. You know, I do want to point out though that even if this expanded area comes to fruition, any proposed zone change would still go to the planning commission. It would not be heard here. So, you know, to change it from office to residential would require a zone, some kind of drastic use change like that would require some kind of zone change, and it would elevate up to the planning commission.
I fully understand that, but my fear is like, we send a signal like, hey, we've got this shiny new amenities plan. We're trying to give the whole area a facelift, and it includes your area too.
Right.
You know, that, I don't want to scare anybody.
Right.
I think we have more than enough on our plates without, you know, tearing down the Salvation Army and turn it into boat storage.
Right.
But if it did come up that they wanted to do something with their site and they needed a CUP change, we could do stuff like ensure the landscaping is in sync with what we're doing in the.
Absolutely, and that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense to me. So, you know, that was one comment I had as I looked through this. The second comment, okay, so now that I've said maybe we should draw the line a little smaller, the second comment I have as I look at this is kind of to be devil's advocate, why not include Zuliger Park and Veterans Park? Because we're about to address a lot of open space and we want it to have the same look and feel. And those are both gateways to the harbor area. If you tell me I'm crazy, fine, but
Was that a question for me? Or?
that's a question for the
You said
commission
Zuliger
and Veterans Park.
and Veterans. Yeah, it looks like it includes a
Because those are
tiny
both
piece of
gateways to
Veterans.
the harbor area. Today they're made of cinder blocks. They're pretty ugly. And I'd love to have them, you know, I'd love to at least have those cinder blocks get a fresh coat of stucco and maybe some mosaic tiles the way the cinder blocks on Harbor Drive have. And have the same look and feel of the rest of Harbor or even the rest of the Esplanade. If you drive down Harbor Drive and then up to Catalina and then down the Esplanade, you see really nice stuff along Harbor Drive, a nice pink cement wall with art on it, the mosaic tiles from our Arts Commission. I forget the group's name, I'm sorry. If you drive down the Esplanade, you see a nice facelift there, new structures, you know, new cement walkways, new benches and stuff. And then you get a Veterans Park and it looks like, you know, it's cinder blocks that cars have hit.
I personally think that's a good idea. I mean, it's public land. It's not like we're taking something away from the planning commission, you know, really. And you're right. I mean, the landscaping and all that should fit.
You know, now we're starting beef with the Parks Commission as well as
Yeah, how
planning.
does
Well,
that
they
work?
still have
Because
purview over it, right?
It almost feels like, my mind just blanked on the park in the harbor now, the name of the park.
Moonstone.
Moonstone is like neglected. I guess it's technically
It's under your jurisdiction.
it's under ours.
Yeah.
So does that mean like Recreations Park doesn't pay much
No,
attention?
they-
But
So the planning commission
I'm
takes
just
care
thinking
of the
like,
other ones.
how does that flip if these came under us?
And hopefully we do a better job than we are with Moonstone.
I mean,
Yeah.
would we be like upgrading playground equipment and, you know,
It's
like,
already
I mean-
been done at Veterans Park.
the next time, you know,
The playground equipment has, but nothing else has.
20 years from now, like,
You know, it
that's
probably sounds like
complicated.
you want to chime in.
So my understanding is Parks, Recs and Parks, I think it is in charge of programming and use where we're more the,
Landscapers.
well, landscape, hardscape and stuff like that. So that's my understanding. But I mean,
Right.
things go through both the planning commission and the public, Parks and
Rex and Park.
Recreation and Parks Commission
Yeah.
already. And I think actually Seaside Lagoon would eventually go through
Yes.
that commission as well. So it's
Right.
not different than how we treat Moonstone
Right.
and Seaside Lagoon in what I'm seeing here.
You know, we as staff, you know, anything that touches a different commission, we stop there for a recommendation first, right? So if we're making improvements to any park in the city, with the exception of Moonstone and Seaside Lagoon, the planning department would stop by Recreation and Parks. I always want to say Parks and Rec.
Me too.
Before going to planning commission for the ultimate approvals. We would follow suit with Seaside Lagoon and Moonstone Park, we'd stop by them first, show them what the plan was, let them recommend design options, things like that. But ultimately, it comes back to you for approval. So essentially, if you added those two parks, that would come to you as well, instead of the planning commission. But we'd still stop at Parks and Rec.
I still think we're overstepping our bounds by taking bigger bites. I think what we have is delightful, and we ought to be happy with it for now, and leave those two parks alone.
I don't know, I think if it has anything to do with us, if it's in our area, if it has anything to do with the harbor or the water, then just because that's how something's been done doesn't mean that's how something should stay. If we can help, I think, why not? As long as it's under the umbrella of community, we're not looking to usurp anybody or undermine anybody, but if we can help out with something, our roles ebb and flow, to use a very fitting term for the Harbor Commission. But they ebb and flow. There are some lean months and there are some more active months. And I think on those lean months, if we can pick up for and help out with another, with all due respect, neglected or less well-treated area, then more eyes, more hands, the better.
Should we go to public before we?
Yeah, I'd like to open this topic up to the public for comments.
Anybody in the public?
State your name.
And you are.
Good evening, Commissioner, staff. Mark Hansen, King Harbor voter and proud member of the recent King Harbor Public Amenities Working Group. I rise this evening in very, very strong support of your proposal to expand your jurisdiction to cover the AS power plant. As we all know, this has been discussed for years and years, that it just seemed to make a lot of sense to coordinate the two properties. Over the years, I heard folks in leadership positions opine that, we couldn't do that because the timing of the AS property or the timing of the rest of the harbor were out of sync. And I watched those two things hopscotch each other and where they were at. We are now at this wonderful point that we have the harbor amenities plan. We got a lot of work in front of us. That's not going to implement immediately, and we got some lawsuits to clear up over at the power plant. But hopefully those things will kind of coordinate. Hopefully by the time we're really ready to start building some stuff, we'll get the AS property under control. I have been in recent communications about this with some folks, and they mentioned kind of the obvious geographic thing. It says, wow, you look to the east, there's not much to coordinate. You look to the west and go, yeah, that makes all the sense in the world to coordinate with the harbor. I'll relate to you that quite some years ago, the president of AES contacted me when they were still thinking about developing and says, hey, Mark, can you do a survey and tell me what the boaters might like to see on our property? Okay, so I sent out a survey, reported it all back to him. But, clearly they recognized at that time that they should coordinate their activities with the harbor. The parking concept that you guys mentioned, I think, is extremely important. I've been personally involved with a lot of harbor events, boat parade, opening day, sea fair, Santa Barbara to King Harbor race, charity regatta, and the chamber run. And we've had a big challenge with parking on these. And for some years, AS graciously would allow us to use overflow parking there. It worked absolutely perfect. And it's been a pain since the Homeland Security came in and says, oh no, it's a terrorist target. You can't use that anymore. And it's really been a pain for us to figure out, we want to support all these wonderful community events, but it's been hard. So it would be just wonderful to have some public harbor parking over there. I will relay to you that although we might look at the amenities kind of at the south end and this parking at the north end, as recently as the Center Cal project, whether you loved it or hated it, one of the things that was discussed at the time that we could overcome that easy, and people talked about trams, okay, that actually add to the fun and the visiting of the harbor, that you take some kind of fun, colorful tram back and forth. So I think that's very surmountable. I wanted to finally, can I steal another 30 seconds from you for this last part?
Motion to extend?
Second.
Thank you. I just wanted to briefly touch on dry storage. As you know, I strongly support that. That's outlined in your proposal. I think by now you all know that the very same paragraph that they cited to order us to put in a boat ramp over all these years, separated by a comma, it mentions the dry boat storage. And of course, we put that into the amenities plan to look for locations. You have a subcommittee working on it. So that's all wonderful. The only thing I would point out, the use of the word masked up, probably we need to kind of remove the word masked up, in my opinion, because masked up should really be adjacent to the boat ramp, where the sailors who take an hour to set up their boats could roll right into launching. And I think more power boats and tenders and so forth would be appropriate over at the AES power plant property. Thank you very much. Great job. Support this.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any other public comments?
There are no public comments.
Okay. Roger, you bring up an interesting point about the parks. And thanks for your explanation, Greg, about similarities with the Seaside Lagoon. I think it does make a lot of sense. I'm thinking about with the amenities plan, we kind of just took it to this point and stopped going south with even thinking of the promenade, just artificial lines, whereas, it is
If I
all
can interrupt, it
connected.
was the Center Cal site, but once you start talking about wayfinding, it doesn't make sense to only have new wayfinding in the middle of the waterfront. It makes sense to extend it from
Yeah.
the park where the art is all the way down to the entrance at the south end, which to me is somewhere around Veterans Park. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Right, and I think it seems like it would aid communication, right? Because if you're going to volley back between different commissions and then there's like that whole month, it's like a lot of extra time, right? To coordinate. It just seems hard. It seems like it would be harder to have a coordinated things like wayfinding and types of lamps and whatever. I mean, you can do it, but it just seems a little bit more tedious if it's separated.
Right, you're trying to respect the opinions of two commissions too, right?
Yeah. So I guess I would be in favor of expanding the recommendation back to City Council and the Planning Commission to amend it to include the public park land of Zuliger Park and veterans.
Zuliger and veterans.
So can I make a motion?
Yes.
So I make the motion that we recommend approval of this as written. We also ask the consideration that we add Veterans Park and Zuliger Park on top of that. And third, that we send a delegate or delegates to the follow-on meetings to help support, the reasoning behind this.
That would be two hearings. It would be at a planning commission meeting in March. Do you remember the date of and city council in one of the meetings in April, just to kind of put that in perspective of what you're volunteering for.
I just have a quick question. Is our involvement going to add an extreme delay now to anything that's going to be done? Because if we meet first, we have the first meeting of the month for the commissions. So we would talk about something, they would then, any other commission involved would then talk about it. Would that be the end of our involvement? Because otherwise we'd have to then meet again and then they would meet. So I'm just saying we'd be chasing each other's meetings.
You mean if we didn't amend these?
If we sought to include these other areas,
Would it extend the?
it would now put
time?
additional hurdles and time on something actually being done in that
Yeah,
area.
just to clarify, I mean, we're talking about the parks, right? So no matter what, right now, Parks and Rec reviews anything that happens at the parks. We give them a purview. But any kind of design change or use change or anything like that would then already inclusive go to the planning commission. You would be replacing the planning commission, right?
Okay.
So it would still go to Parks and Rec and you instead of Parks and Rec and planning.
Okay,
So you're not adding
Historic
to it, you're
library.
replacing somebody,
okay,
right?
never mind.
Okay.
So I put out a motion, there's no second.
I second it now.
Okay.
Any further comment before we vote on that?
I'll make the comment that, Vicky, I understand your point. And I honestly, that we have enough on our plates. And I sort of agree with that because honestly, look how good a job we're doing with Moonstone. It's actually funded and we still don't have the bandwidth to get to it. So, if you gave us this, when would we get to
Well, I also
Zuliger?
see it
That's-
as a land grab from another commission. And they may see it that way. We're already
And-
doing this.
That concerns me, so I would I like the part of your motion where we go to these other commission meetings and meet with them. But I also sort of feel like if we do a good job with implementing the amenities plan and the wayfinding and the look and feel of the area, everybody's going to want this stuff in Zuliger and Vets, because Vets to me already looks like an eyesore. It looks like a prison break. So, if we do our jobs correctly with what we already have, I see the good wayfinding and good look and feel and proper planting spreading into Zuliger and Veterans anyway. I still think it's a good idea that we take it, but I'm not going to die on this hill defending this. So,
That's kind of why I piecemeal, I
yeah.
said, accept it as, we recommend it as written. We ask them to consider expanding, and then that we send a delegate to help support it at the following meetings.
Yeah.
So it can be broken up, and if someone does take offense, we don't lose the baby
whole
with the
thing.
bathwater. So,
Yeah, and and it kind of echoes my earlier point of, the point being, how can we enhance communication between those three organizations, right? Because stuff like this, we want to be, doing it in a time-effective manner and taking advantage. And this is our suggestion, and if there's other ways, maybe they'll come to light.
should we close the public comment?
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to close public comment and we'd like,
Second.
all in favor of Jim's motion?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
One.
It's 4-1, the motion carries.
Sorry, Jim.
Oh, no, that's okay. But you're opposed to the second
The
piece of
second
that.
portion,
But
yeah.
the rest of it, you
The rest of it I approve, yeah.
Can we get the minutes to?
To reflect that, yeah,
Reflect that.
that we all approve the first portion.
Sure.
I didn't like the second
Okay.
add-on.
Do you guys want to select someone to
I
attend the
shouldn't be
meetings?
the person.
I'd be happy to go.
Same.
I think we can select based on the date. We don't have to
Yeah.
pre-select, do we?
Okay, that's fine, yeah.
But Leslie, if you can make them, we just don't know when it's going to get to the council, and I
Yeah.
would,
Right.
No.
Yeah.
So we're good?
Yeah.
All right.
let the chair help solicit who goes. I don't think it hurts if multiple of us go.
No, not at all.
No, not at all.
Become more muscle.
And this property is interesting too, because even in the GPAC, we weren't allowed to talk about that whole triangle, even though it's such an important,
It's the gateway.
we weren't allowed to.
Well, while we're at it, might as well do the whole 190th. And the beach.
The power plant, yeah.
Everything a king tide storm touches.
Okay, great. Moving on to item M1, Director's Report.
Yeah, I have a few updates for you guys. Some good news. The repainting of those 9 sail structures at the pier has been complete. I don't know if you guys have checked it out yet. Very vibrant, very bright. Pretty cool. And Chris King, who's one of our managers down there, found a solution that was a lot cheaper than we had originally even thought. So we saved a lot of money and it looks great. So all good stuff. I mentioned the public boat launch in our earlier discussion. That continues to make progress. City Council approved the RFP in October of 2023. We went ahead and solicited firms. We've got feedback and submittals at this point. We have a selection team that is grading those as we speak. They actually met on February 8th, couldn't get through the whole thing, so they're going to meet again this week. Hopefully they'll kind of keep going with that. Next steps would be interviews, and then finally we'll be selecting our preferred finalist, which will then negotiate the contract and get a contract in front of council. So we continue to make progress. Dave's leading the efforts there and doing a great job. The dredging project, I don't know if you guys looked out your
Yes.
window today.
Thanks, Roger.
Yeah,
Roger sent pictures.
yeah, the big barge is out there. It came out today. Work starts tomorrow. It's an 8-week project. It's really exciting. Number one, well overdue. Maybe Jim, when was the last time we dredged?
I don't even.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. And then number two, it's just needed, but two, it's actually going to pave the way for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to do their work on the break wall and getting their machinery and their barges close enough to the break wall. So this is August, and that's happening next year. And then I've got a few
This
items
summer.
on,
I
what's
thought
that?
it was this summer.
This summer.
With the,
Army Corps of
oh, maybe
Engineers.
it is, yeah, sorry.
July.
Timing is everything. And then we actually are paying a lot of attention to International Boardwalk right now. So the new pavers would replace the old asphalt that's out there. That's a big project, an expensive project. But we had a walkthrough of the area with potential design firms showing up to do that walkthrough, get a good scope of it. We anticipate awarding a contract in March, and we're hopeful construction will begin in April. It's taking we're expected to take 8 to 12 weeks, and businesses would remain open the entire time. The good thing with pavers is you can kind of systematically close portions and work around the doors and things like that. So that's good. And then we're also working on a project for new blade signs for the tenants on International Boardwalk.
Can I ask a quick question on that?
Yeah.
Do they the jackhammer up?
I don't know how they're going to demo the asphalt.
Just
Does
thinking
anybody know
of
how they do that?
the disturbances? Yeah,
I thought it was grinding.
grinding.
Grinding?
Either way.
That's what it is on a city street.
Yeah.
But
Maybe grinding? Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
So blade signs along International Boardwalk, blade signs are pedestrian oriented. They're, when you're walking, past the storefronts, you don't have to edge of the sidewalk and look up above the door to see the store that you're going into. It's a sign that actually is perpendicular to the building and overhangs a little bit over the pedestrian walkway. So you know exactly what you're looking at, where you're going. Way more pedestrian friendly. So we've got some quotes out for that. There's some upgrades that need to happen to accommodate. So we've got a sign contractor. And then the electrical, we got to run electrical, and it's potential we have to upgrade the electrical panels to accommodate. So
Oh, they're going to be lit.
we're going to be lit, yeah.
Cool.
We haven't picked a design yet. Part of that is going through design options and things like that.
I was thinking just, European style.
Right. No,
It's just the International Boardwalk.
yeah, and I don't know how they're going to be lit. Is it going to be internally illuminated? Is it going to have like one of those little lights that kind of just shines on it from the outside? We could decide that it's not illuminated at all. We haven't gotten into design considerations at all at this point, but
Be cheaper if you don't have to illuminate it.
no, that's true. 100% true. Yeah. And then if you've been down at International Boardwalk, we've been having an ongoing project where we're repairing all the stairs that go down, that lead down to the boardwalk. If you saw it, there's 5 staircases, and a lot of them had, chipped away concrete. Some of the rebar was showing in certain areas, and the stairs were just old and they didn't have any like slip resistant,
Treads.
Yeah, right. So 3 of the staircases have been completed. 2 haven't. The 2 that haven't are the ones closest to Paddle House. And then the ones closest to the Fun Factory. Fun Factory, like Quality Seafood, that area right there.
That's the worst one.
That's
Yeah.
the worst one.
Yeah. And that's likely going to take a different design scheme because it's not concrete.
Well, it's not legal
It's not
either.
legal.
The tread height is
Yeah.
way too high.
And your foot, when you step on it, it overhangs.
Yeah.
I don't have big feet, but I
They're
look like
not
I'm a
legal
clown.
treads.
when
Like
I'm
the
going
Chichen
down
Itza pyramid.
Yeah. So that's ongoing. Update with the sea bass pens. So our preferred location in Basin 3, unfortunately, won't work out because of at the lowest tide, we don't have enough water depth to accommodate the pens themselves. Very disappointing, but the subcommittee met just a few weeks ago to take a look at an alternative Basin 3 location and decided it wasn't really suitable. It's a weird location right next to the skate park, which in good news, the skate park's heavily utilized. But we want limited access to this area for the health of the sea bass. And then the area that they were proposing was just in a slip, and the slip itself was in disrepair. So it was going to be costly just to repair the slip to get ready for the pens. So if you remember, when we originally talked about this almost a year ago, originally we had decided that the Harbor Patrol area, the slips over there, location-wise were probably the best fit. But we all, understood that they were about to be under construction. So we shied away from that location, not knowing how that project length was going to go. Unfortunately, the sea bass project hasn't materialized, but the good news is the Harbor Patrol docks have. So now the subcommittee has decided to prefer that location first. So at this point, staff's going to explore that option with the Harbor Patrol, with the fire department, and with the city manager, and report back to the subcommittee on if we can do it. And if so, we'll get a path forward. I don't know if we'd have to return to city council to get the new location approved or not. We'll look into that, but just an update on where we're at with that.
May I add to that?
Yeah.
So the two locations we were looking at were the end of the commercial dock right next to the skate park, or that other one where the race boat used to be, and now Navigant is there.
Yeah.
And the problem, they each had problems. One, the one that's attached to the commercial fishing dock, the finger's like very narrow.
And decrepit.
It's only supported at the far end by one piling. And so the stress that the sea pen would put on it with tide changes, with wind and all that,
Would pull it over.
you'd have to re-engineer that, or you'd be breaking that little thin finger. Plus, operationally, that little thin finger is a risk to people who have to use it to wheel out fish and stuff like that, or feed for the fish. The other location, the Navigant, is a very short area that is often frequented by sport fishing and whale watching folks going down. It's also supposed to be the dinghy dock. So we'd have to find a new dinghy dock, and it's very short, so you could never expand the facility if you're in that location. And then the third consideration is all those docks have to be replaced. So we'd have to move, and the seawall has to be rebuilt. So during all that, you'd have to move the sea pen. And then the final consideration was the tidal flow back there isn't as good,
Very good.
as it is, out where we originally had picked for the location, which is the Harbor Patrol dock. So for all those reasons, you put that together, and it just seemed dumb to put it in either of those locations, because it just drove future problems where we'd have to relocate it anyway.
Thanks.
So looking into next meeting, our next meeting is on March 11th. I don't have anything concrete right now. I've got a lot of things that could appear on our agenda. So I do think we should definitely have the meeting. We've got 2 or 3 items with the planning department, potentially could come over here and release like design reviews and use permits. The Portofino slips is an option too.
That was on my list.
Yeah, so
We said by March, we'd have
Right.
something on that.
So we've got a contract that's been drafted. City attorney has been looking at it for quite some time. But when we look at the lease language that created why we have to reserve these slips for a nonprofit sailing club, it specifically mentions that whoever our chosen candidate is, prior to us getting into a contract, that we actually have to go to the executive director of the Coastal Commission to get their approval on that entity, on that person. So our community services division is performing that right now.
Okay.
Once we get that hopeful approval, we'll bring it to you. You can take a look at it. You'll be a recommending body, just because of how often the Martins have come to voice their displeasure over it not being contracted yet. And then it'll go to city council for formal adoption. And that is my report, but I'm here to answer any questions about anything I just said or any other topic.
So I do have a referral, which I know I'm jumping ahead, but
Can we move to?
we seem to
item
mash
M?
that all together. I think
Not under my reign.
we are ready to come back. Yeah, not under Leslie's watch. She's got a gavel. I think the subcommittee is ready to come back with the, whatever, I just got some notes from Roger, so I'll incorporate those, but the Voters Alert Network or whatever we're
Okay.
going to call it, our recommendations for that. And I think, you know, I had a phone call with Kevin Ketchum from
Port Royal?
Port Royal, and he said he was surprised the first time he's gotten an announcement from the city on weather. And so we know how that came about. And I think it's important, you know, things like, you know, we were hearing over the email, what happened to the dredging, right? There was
Right.
no announcement that it slipped because of weather. So I think this is much needed, and it's not happening without us at least pushing to get
Right.
some decision on whether the city should do that or not at the council level. So I think we'll be ready for that for the next meeting if you want to
Sure. I
bring
mean,
that up, because we haven't shared it with the rest of
yeah,
the.
with your guys' consent, we can put that on the
Yes,
agenda.
please.
Yeah, I'll comment though and say the city website and the couple, you know, bullet points and activity points you have on the waterfront and economic development page are, you know, great. So much better than it used to be. It's a start toward the stuff you're talking about. So, you know, hey, good work. That's
Yeah,
helpful.
kudos to Dave.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, I'd like to move to item N, commission items and referrals to staff.
Public comment on the director's report.
Thank you, Mark. I'd like to open for public comment on item M, director's report.
Do you want to speak on it, Mark? No.
Thanks for keeping me straight.
I'm mean, but I'm not that mean. Mark Hanson, King Harbor voter. I just briefly on the Seaside Lagoon, we had a community meeting. I believe 2 of the harbor commissioners were there, but for the benefit of the rest of you, one thing I want to highlight is I have been mentioning to staff and the consultant that I've been a little concerned that, in a word, what we're presenting to the community is boring. Okay, I don't mean to insult anybody. It's just kind of my feeling about it. Is that we were asking them, showing them big pictures and saying, do you want more sand or do you want more grass? Okay thing to ask, but just not very exciting, okay? They're asking, which of these 3 architectures do you want for the building? Okay thing to ask, but you know, for the most part, they don't even know what they're gonna do in the building. So I've gone to both of the pop-ups in the community meeting, and I just found those things were not engaging the public, okay? And as I talked to the public, I found they wanted to know, what fun things can I and my family do in there, okay? I had, as you all know, I've sent to you during the Harbor Amenities Plan, I collected 4 things that were coastal related. I won't review those right now, but those kind of intrigued me, so I put those forward to staff and the consultant. They were great about listening to me, and at the community meeting, after they went down where they already had on their cards, they says, hey, and by the way, you know, what should we do for programming, okay, is the word they're using. And they said, write it on the back of the card. They also had one whole wall full of pictures of programming things, okay? And then as they start that, they even called on me and said, Mark, you want to make a comment? Okay, sure. I would say my only concern maybe would be that the word programming is a little soft, okay? Because some of the things that I collected were facilities. They weren't just programming. I'd say the radio-controlled sailboats, that's just programming. You don't need any facilities. But if you wanted to have a standing surf wave or a wave for little kids or scuba stuff, those are really our facilities. I meant not to cover those, but I just did. At any rate, so anyway, just kind of wanted to pass that on to you, that I think we really need to engage the public a little more on what fun, cool things that you want to do inside. Anyway, hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mark.
you. Any other public comments on director's report?
There are no other public comments.
Thank you.
I have one sort of, commissioner comment, public referral item. Every year, the voter ID card goes up another 5 years in age. It is now 60 years and below. So now theoretically, everybody 60 years and below needs a California voter's license. And next year, it's going to be everybody.
Wow. Everybody.
Everybody.
You'd have to have a driver's license.
It's not hard.
It's not hard.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to commission items and referrals to staff. I had two things that I was informed of. The Lanakeela Classic is Saturday, February 24th at Seaside Lagoon, and they use the hand launch to get people in and out. That's open to outriggers, SUPs, surf skis, paddleboards, and there's a 5 and 9 mile course in the open ocean, and then they're using the harbor for a 1,000-meter kids race.
That's cool.
On a Saturday. Free race fee includes lunch and complimentary breakfast. The other really cool thing that this email informed me of is that the American Canoe Association Ocean Racing Committee has selected the Lanakeela Classic 2024 as one of the qualifying races for the ICF Canoe Ocean Racing World Championships. And those are going to be held in Madeira, Portugal. And so I guess people that want to enter that, this race helps interested USA ocean racing surf ski athletes to attest so that they can attend the World Championships. So that's really cool. I know, like, one of Bill Barron's thing, right, was, getting the Olympics to do ocean water swimming here. So this is just really cool. Another thing where we're getting kind of this, feeder race to an international event is really cool.
So to that end, is the city doing anything to support that? Are we going to have like one of the council members out there to?
They haven't reached out to
Official
staff.
events, or
Not that I'm aware of.
is it on our website, or?
Now they coordinate, if they wanted a city council member there, they usually just coordinate directly with the council member. I don't necessarily get told if they're going to be there or not. It's something we can put on our website.
I'll talk to the councilman. I just think,
Yeah.
it's a chance to be ambassadors to people coming in from all over,
Yeah.
right? If it's
Sure.
one of the qualifying races, you're going to get a lot of people here from around the country, and
Yeah, not just Southern California, it sounds like.
Hawaii, and so I think it's a good chance for ambassadorship for our great town. So I think we're I wish I thought about it sooner. I just think there's
Yeah,
more
that's
we
a
could
good point.
generate as a community, and use this to highlight our waterfront rather than it just be
Right.
only canoers know about it.
Right.
So
Yeah, and it's open to so many different, craft.
and Lanakeela is such a good organization for the community.
It is.
I think it behooves us to figure out how, as a community, we can get more behind it and benefit from it, more broadly.
Yeah. Okay.
Bring it
I
up
don't
earlier
have any-
next year, Leslie.
What's that?
Bring it up earlier next year.
I know. I just found out about it between these, we didn't have a meeting in January, but I don't think I found out about it till after that. Okay, so that's all I had. Any other commissioner comments, referrals?
I made mine. Did you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we wanted to conclude today's meeting in honor of Mayor Brand. I just put some words together so I wouldn't forget everything I wanted to say. His passion and love for our city was really infectious. His dedication to pursuits small, like the overgrown bluff area that needed beautification, and large, taking on the state to help preserve our city rights, is really one to emulate. By him taking on the city's interests at the state and federal level, what he has done for this community goes far beyond the bare minimum that, some would demonstrate in a similar role elsewhere as a mayor. He lives a gigantic shoes to fill. He demonstrated the value of citizen involvement and voice that that no challenge is too tough to start tackling, even if it just feels like small bites at a time. I had read a quote from Councilman Nierenheim's post that said that Bill found, in finding the Seaside Lagoon, he thought that he had found heaven. That fondness, which is shared by so many, should really inspire us, especially this commission, as we are charged with aiding the city and enhancing that amenity. And I hope that he would be proud of our future endeavors there specifically and for every area that we're working for in our jewel of a waterfront for watermen like him and the community at large. From what I saw, Bill Brand was a selfless leader, inspiration for civic engagement at all levels, and we will really miss his drive and leadership. I now open the floor to any other comments from my fellow commissioners before we close.
Every mayor has left an imprint on this city. I've worked with many, and Bill's passion was the ocean. He was a true waterman. He taught me how to stand up paddleboard, not that I do it very well, but he was happy to share his passion with anybody who would listen and anybody who was interested. I'm going to miss that passion, going to miss his activism, and he's going to have big flip-flops to fill.
Thank you, Vicki.
So I'm kind of building on what Leslie said, Bill's passion for the water is what got him involved down here. His first thing was heart of the city, and that's what got him involved, and eventually moving up to become our mayor. So, I'm sorry. It's a very close friend. It's a big loss personally. It's a big loss for the community, but I think it's up to us to persevere in his name and carry out his vision. And I beseech all of you to please, when we're making decisions up here, I think it behooves us to just take a step back and say, what would Bill do before we make final decisions? Because his passion was here. His passion was for the whole city. But when you look at the start and the end, I know that, Bill battled that cancer for 4.5 years, almost 5. And from what I understand, he's the longest survivor in the US of that type of cancer. And knowing Bill and having been with him through that whole journey, 2 things seemed to drive him and I think kept him fighting to stay alive for so long. One was his love for his wife, Deidre, and his friends and family. But second, getting things done here in the city. He had a vision and he wanted to see it to the end as long as he could. And so I think, in honor of Bill, I would ask that all of us keep him in mind when we're making decisions for the future. Thanks. I'm sorry for blubbering like a
Well
baby.
said, well said.
Thank you. So we'd like to close this meeting, adjourn the meeting in honor of Mayor Bill Brand.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Meeting adjourned.